Anyone flying either domestically or overseas will have to pass through some form of security, and most will find that depending on the airport and the time of day, the experience can be variable. From Wellington...
So it's Monday just after 12 p.m. and the queue here in Wellington is pretty significant.
...to Auckland.
About 2:30 on a Friday and not much queue at all. Really good.
Everything from passenger and baggage screening to patrols of the aerodrome is overseen by a single government entity, the Aviation Security Service, or AVSEC. The Herald has learned the Transport Minister Simeon Brown is now asking if airports, airlines or even other private security firms could do a better job. In a private consultation document obtained by the Herald, he says delivering the services Kiwis need in a convenient and cost-effective way is a priority. I want to make sure that the travelling public are getting the most efficient service while also feeling safe and secure when they fly.
Why do you think the Minister's doing this?
Yeah, I think the Minister is channeling the frustration of New Zealanders who are really, held up in the queues.
Kath O'Brien represents the interests of airlines and believes the Minister's reference to improving efficiencies means two things.
One is we're talking about time, which is time for people being processed, and we're talking about cost for the service, the good service that is being provided.
And that's the cost on you and I if we're flying as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. So everybody who is flying is paying a passenger levy for the Aviation Security Service.
Do you think the current model with AVSEC, there is enough of a driver to be efficient?
Yeah, I think that is my biggest question at the moment. So when I look at the current model, which is a Crown-owned, sort of entity, where is it driven to shed cost out of its cost base?
While the Civil Aviation Authority, which runs AVSEC, wouldn't comment, Minister Simeon Brown told the Herald people travelling through airports expect a reliable and efficient service that is secure and can quickly scale up during times of peak demand. In his report outlining the potential for change, he gives the example of Auckland Airport running security for its domestic and international passengers. In another example, he suggests airlines themselves run security at regional airports.
Could there be, in this scenario, a joint airline and airport scenario?
Yeah, look, I think all options are on the table. Certainly, both airlines and airports are keen to see greater efficiency from the machine. We have, maybe 6 airports that have security screening, so not so many in a global sense. We also have airlines that can arrive at those airports more or less all the way around the clock. So sometimes they arrive all at once at peak times, and sometimes they arrive in the middle of the night all on their own. And you have to resource the same security to all of those things. And I think that's where we run into trouble. So we don't necessarily have a way to scale up the security response at busy times, and we have to pay a decent amount to provide, security services at off-peak times, in the quiet times of the night. And so those two things are challenging. The idea of really long, difficult queues certainly makes us kind of not a great place to visit if that's the first or the last experience that the visitor has.
But she says given AVSEC currently do a good job with security and safety, care is required.
Now, I think we have to be cautious about whether or not having an outsourced model actually brings us the efficiencies that we are looking for. And so whatever we walk into, we have to design it in such a way that it's incentivised to be efficient.
I started flying with Air New Zealand in 1985.
David Morgan is Air New Zealand's chief pilot.
The issue here is making the aviation system safe, secure and effective. I mean, aviation is a key enabler for economic success in New Zealand as a key transport mode. And we need to have something that's effective, efficient, robust, capable.
So if you're saying we need an effective, efficient situation, Air New Zealand obviously thinks that the current state of play is not quite there. Is that fair?
We think that if you created that contestability, it has the potential to make the system more effective and more efficient.
and more cost effective?
Potentially, particularly to airports.
Everyone who pays for a flight pays a hidden levy for aviation security, fees the Civil Aviation Authority, which runs AVSEC, has proposed increasing significantly. It wants to hike passenger safety levies by 146%, as well as increase fees for domestic and international security. The fees fund aviation security across New Zealand, even though providing security at regional airports like Whangarei, for example, would cost a lot less given fewer passengers and flights and no screening machines. Captain Morgan backs the idea of considering alternative arrangements.
The concept of a contestability of aviation security services in other airports, should they be desired, is something that I think the airline is obviously very keen on. And the reason for that is that the cost base of aviation security is quite high. And security should be delivered on the basis of the level of threat. And that level of threat doesn't necessarily exist at all of the airports that we operate to. And so that you can have in my view, a layered level of security that can be delivered at different airports at different times. Because if we set up the full security system that exists at an airport such as Auckland at the moment and moved it to Whangarei, given the costs associated with that, which get paid for by the passenger through the passenger levy, the reality is the cost of that would be sheeted back to the customers, and that makes operating to those airports quite problematic.
Do you think it would be cheaper for the travelling public to have different security providers?
I think it would level the cost across the network. New Zealand is unique in the sense that we have an organ of the government, an aviation security service that's provided by the government. The only other one that really does exist in the world is the TSA in the USA. So it's rather unique that we have this system here in New Zealand.
Whether that unique system is set to change will depend on submissions the Minister receives and a more detailed analysis of the costs.